So this week's build was a build for a off-grid cabin situation. The customer came to us looking to build a off-grid barn dominium style family recreation area slash hunting cabin. And for the cost of what the power company was going to charge him for installing power to the site, he thought that there could be a better way to do it off-grid with solar. So what we've ended up building for him is a dual inverter setup to give him the 120/240 split phase capable of powering his water well, and then also run a mini split and a refrigerator and the standard day-to-day appliances for his cabin. Quick rundown, we have two multi-plus 2 48 volt 5000 volt amp inverters capable of providing 8000 watts of continuous power. We have a solar charge controller. It's a 250 volt solar charge controller capable of providing 100 amps of charge. Here in Mississippi, with the solar harvest day being between 5 and 5.5 hours, 5,800 watts, you're looking at anywhere from 2,800 to 3,000 watt hours of power being harvested and placed back towards your battery bank system. So the system is also going to be monitored through the Serbo GX. The Serbo GX brings in the capability to be able to monitor it remotely if you provide a Wi-Fi service. The customer is going to be allowed to be off-site because one of the other things he's running is a Starlink. So he is going to be able to be off-site and monitoring what's going on with his family retreat, to include security and all that for cameras and all of that stuff as well. The system for energy storage is comprised of 6 100 amp hour 48 volt batteries. This whole system, the benefit is that it is scalable. So if down the road plans change a little bit, maybe he realizes or experiences that he starts having multiple families out and they're using more power than they expected. If he's looking for more power overnight, we can certainly add batteries. If he's looking to recover more power, adding solar is certainly simple. The solar panel arrangement for this setup, it's going to be essentially 16 400 watt solar panels. They're going to be configured in sets of 4, so four in series, and then 4 sets of those series panels. He has the capability that if he wants to do early morning and late evening, he'll be able to plug that into the same system to help achieve more output using the same equipment. So if he finds that the solar arrangement is not capable of producing enough power to recharge his battery bank on a regular basis and cover his power needs during the day, he does have the ability that he can simply add another solar charge controller to this system and be able to bring in more solar harvest quickly and easily. One of the benefits that I like about the Victron equipment versus some of the other all-in-one inverters. So the all-in-one inverters, they have built-in solar charge controllers. They allow you to wire them up for 120/240 split phase automatically without anything special. It is one box you can hang on the wall. They have all the circuit protection, everything that you need built into it. The problem is that it's not exactly customizable. It's not, you don't have the flexibility that you can get with the Victron system. If you only need a 120 volt system for whatever your build is going to be, you can get by with just one inverter. If you need the 240 split phase capability, you just add a second inverter. When it comes down to it, the cost is comparable to an all-in-one, a large all-in-one inverter the same size.
So you like this for the adaptability.
It's certainly a whole lot more adaptable. It's customizable to exactly what your needs are.
Okay.
And it also has the ability that if you start outgrowing your system, start adding more capabilities, you bring on more appliances, you change the way how much you're powering, you can then add to the system to be able to increase your output capability without having to replace components. You just add to it. So you're basically buying it a la carte and adding to it a la carte.
That's perfect.
Because of the flexibility of these components, I can design a system, whether it's a small cabin, whether it's just a small backup power system, somebody looking to just keep a couple of freezers running in the garage, whatever the situation may be, I can size a system to be able to cover exactly what they need.
So does that include she sheds in the backyard? Does that include a playroom or a small business? If somebody wants to build something, you can not only have just backup power, but if you chose to, with the right system, it could power the whole.
You can have an entire off-grid build. You can have a system to any size. We can tier it to whatever build you're looking to do.
Okay.
And so having the flexibility to be able to make it what is going to benefit what your needs are going to be.
So this whole board is completely customizable to whatever my needs are. If it's going to be take something away, if it's going to be add something, sometimes they're a little less money, sometimes they're a little more money, depending on what my specific needs are. Right.
So if your goal, say your specific goal may be a she shed / playhouse for the kids, right? You could set up something that is going to run your hobby is candle making or running a 3D printer or whatever the case may be. You can size the system to be able to give you that to give you those power needs.
I wanted to have a starter system, like we'll use the she shed for example. That I first of all, how do I figure out what I need to bring to you to start my quote?
So the first step in identifying what you're going to need in order to help design your system, what we need to do is we need to start by properly sizing the inverters. Okay. Getting the inverters right from the get-go is going to be pretty important, but it's fairly simple to be able to do.
Okay.
My recommendation is know what your usage is going to be. To help you, any of your appliances are going to be able to list the usable wattage of that device. If the device is UL listed, it's going to tell you what the maximum wattage of that device is going to be. Whether it's a refrigerator, a hairdryer, a printer, a laptop charger, it doesn't matter. It's going to tell you what the maximum wattage is.
Okay.
That gives you a basic idea. You can get basic information, but one of the things that I do recommend is to get something called a kilowatt meter.
Okay.
This kilowatt meter basically says that when you plug your appliance into the kilowatt meter, plug this into the wall, and run your appliance for 24 hours.
Okay.
This is going to tell you what the maximum surge of that appliance is. So if you turn on a printer and it has to go through a heat process to heat up the ink in order to start printing with it, when you plug it in and turn it on, it goes through a surge because it's got to heat up that ink.
Right.
And so during that surge, you're going to see a different watt level than...
And it's going to capture all of that.
And it's going to capture all that, and it's going to show you, okay, the maximum surge was this much, but when it's typically running, you're going to be able to see, okay, this is what it's going to use. And it's going to break it down into 24-hour period, it used this much energy.
Okay.
And so...
And I wouldn't typically use a printer for a whole 24-hour period. So then part of my job when using this is taking a look at the numbers and then deciding I only use my printer on average, let's say 2 hours a day.
Right.
And then being able to
do some basic math. Write down, there's a couple of charts that are available, spreadsheets that can help you tally up to figure out what your usage is going to be.
Okay.
Sizing the inverters to be able to do.
And that's this. This is the inverter.
Yeah, so these two boxes are the inverter. Now, the purpose of for this system, the purpose of these two inverters is that the customer needed 240 volt capability. He's going to run a deep water well. He's going to run possibly a mini split that may be the 240 volt range.
So 240 volts is a lot of power. That's what that equates to me.
Right,
correct?
right.
Okay.
So at major appliances, if you have a stove that you're, an electric stove that you may want to set up and run off of electric, you're going to need that 240 volts in order to. So you're talking about high current, big appliances. If you have any of those purposes, with the Victron system, you're going to need at least the two inverters to give you that 120, 240 split phase power. If you don't have any of those appliances, if you're not worried about running a stove or a large appliance like that, if you're just building a she shed, you could get by with one inverter, and everything that inverter is powered by 120 volts.
And then if I decided to expand on that she shed for whatever reason and add, let's say, a major appliance, or if I wanted to add more solar, I do have those capabilities, because you said you can expand from one of these to two of these pretty easily.
Pretty simple. It's an easy transition. There's a little bit more of an engineering that goes into it, but it's not
not doable.
Yeah, it's not doable. You have the capability that if one inverter, if you start off and you say, okay, I'm only going to run a printer, a computer, an air filter, whatever in your she shed, maybe a sewing machine or whatever your hobby is.
Right.
You may start off and say, oh, okay, one inverter is going to do what I'm going to need to do. Right. Then you start going to all these different shows.
And decide I want to make it my business.
And you want to make it a business. It then turns from a hobby to a habit. We have the capability that if your hobby only takes one,
right,
and down the road you need to expand because now you have a habit, and you have now you have the die cut machines, and you have the extra loads that you're going to be applying, and you realize, oh, wait a second, one inverter. I have to turn off this in order to run this, because I'm running into issues where one inverter isn't enough. Right. To add a second inverter in a parallel setup is super simple.
Okay.
Or if you bring on a larger appliance, to add a second inverter to give you that 120, 240 split phase capability. Say you bring in an oven, because now you're getting into shrinky dinks or whatever. I guess I just dated myself, right? If that's your hobby and you need that capability, to add that inverter is not such a big deal, because you already have all the other infrastructure.
Right.
The wiring is pretty simple.
Okay, perfect. And that's great from a small business owner standpoint, because, like you said, if I had my she shed and ran all of this that turned into a business, my business can also help support the expansion.
The expansion.
So I can start here with my finances and get this started. And if I add on later with my business expansion, then that's where this comes in.
It's going to be another expense that the business can cover.
Yes.
and expand it. Your she shed may not even, if you have a small power supply, say you have 15 amps that you can run from your main power supply, right? But you know that your she shed may take more than that 15 amps. You could put in one of these systems, even without the solar capability.
Right.
You could take a 15 amp supply, pull it into the inverter. The inverter is going to do what it needs to do to either pass through that power, provide the power that you need to keep your business, your she shed running.
Right.
And then you have a battery bank that helps provide the extra power. So if that 15 amps isn't enough to power what you're running, the inverter can dip into the battery bank, cover that load.
It won't raise my...
And it won't cause you to have to run more power out to the she shed than just that 15 amp line. And so to be able to expand on the power capability of a remote building or a remote shed, the 15 amps in the end, if you're only intermittently using power for whatever your hobby is or your addiction, you can build the system so that it's going to run all of your needs. And then that 15 amps is just power coming in to help charge the battery bank. Now, you can set it up where you then bring in, if you have the space for solar capability.
Can it then eventually do a standalone to where electricity is no longer an issue for my business?
Right. The thing with the solar setup is that you can also scale this to size, right? So as you can afford it, as the business grows, as your needs expand, you just bring in additional solar capabilities to help charge your battery bank, so that while you're out there doing the work, it's meeting your needs. The battery bank is staying topped off. If you still have that 15 amp outlet coming in, that's going to help make up for a lot of the rainy days. But if you wanted to get completely off grid, you can certainly do it, right?
That's perfect.
And so it gives you flexibility so that you can grow your business or hobby
and grow my off-grid
scale it, right.
Okay, perfect.
So we know that knowing what you need is important in sizing the inverters. Being able to identify what your power requirements are. Once we know what your surge capability is, once we've gone through the test
once I've provided you and you've given me a quote,
right?
What, and then this board gets done,
right? And so what we'll do is we'll size the inverters. We'll size a battery bank to be able to support your power loads for the duration that you need to be able to run them. We'll then sit down and we can build the board layout so that we basically build everything in-house, and so that it's just...
How long does that take?
Once we have everything that you need, then we're looking at, if we don't already have it in stock, we're looking at about a week to bring in the components for your specific build. And then once we get the components in and get you lined up on the schedule, then we're talking about potentially a week to build and test the overall layout. When we build it in-house, we're going to build it, lay it all out. We're going to connect your battery bank. We're going to take the system as built, and we are going to test it. We are going to...
And that's what these wires are on the end.
Yeah, right. And so we hook up a temporary power solution so that we can test to make sure that we have full functionality of the entire system here in-house. We do all the calibration that's required for the system so that it truly comes down to being a plug-and-play situation. When you go to mount the system into your shed or into your space, generally we're going to pull the inverters back off the board, so you're going to have to rewire those. But there's certainly not much to them as far as connections.
Now, for the wiring, is this something an electrician has to do, or do you provide services? So for me, do you provide consultation services where I can Zoom with you and you can walk me through this until I get to the electrician, and where an electrician has to link in? Is that something that you do?
When we build the system, what we provide is we are going to provide pictures of the build. We're going to provide basically a diagram showing how everything's supposed to go. Okay. I do recommend you talk to a local electrician. They're going to know what the local authorities are going to require specifically for your power system. Okay. And so if your city or town has any kind of regulations, your local electrician is going to be able to better inform you of what those policies are. Okay. Realistically, we're going to provide you with the information that you're going to be able to do most of the installation yourself, and then allow the electrician in final hookup to do the finish work. And so realistically, it shouldn't take them long. Again, it's you're going to have to talk to your local electrician to figure out what it's going to cost, all of that stuff for that portion. The lid for
Right,
the inverter,
pretty
uh,
user-friendly,
yeah,
right?
it gives you the wiring diagram of how the inverters work and how everything functions.
Perfect.
So an electrician should be able to look at this and say, okay, line, ground, neutral, we need to make these connections. This is how it's going to function.
What if I have additional questions about how I can use my system? If I want to get a little more into, how the programs work, the things I can do on the user end to be able to monitor or to be able to more than just the plug and play go. Do you
So
have services
we do. We offer consulting services to be able to educate you on how the system works.
Okay.
If your electrician needs a little bit of assistance, maybe it's his first system, he's never worked with the Victron stuff, maybe he's curious, maybe he wants to learn so that he can offer it to more clients.
Right.
What we can do is we do offer consulting services, starting off at 2-hour increments. You can basically work into the original purchase. We can provide up to a 10-hour block. That consulting service can be either through phone call, it can be through a video chat, it can be through any kind of media that you really choose. We're pretty flexible. The catch is that it's got to be scheduled. We've got to have a little bit of a schedule to be able to make sure that you get all of your questions answered. If you want to coordinate it with when your electrician is there on site or at commissioning, please reach out and try to get it scheduled. Generally, we do not work on weekends. However, for an additional weekend fee, we there's a possibility that we can provide that service. We do offer the assistance. We will walk you through how the system works. We can go through and cover how the system is supposed to work for you, how you can make adjustments to make it work better for you. Again, it's tailored specifically to what your needs are. With the Victron systems, one of the other nice benefits of these is that you have what they refer to as the Serbo GX. There's a couple of different form factors that this can come in. This happens to be one of the more common ones. There are some other options that we can discuss for your specific build, but in general, they all do the same thing. Your main communication hub is the Serbo. You have a display screen that shows you exactly what's going on with the system. If you had solar coming in, you would see dots moving across the screen. If you're pulling power in from shore power, you'd be able to see that coming in. If it's charging your battery bank or pulling from the battery bank, you have a great visual reference. You don't need to have any real experience. Somebody can look at it and say, hey, this is the status of the system, this is what's going on. And so
this is reading, this is your incoming solar, goes up into your charge controller, out to your multimeter.
Well, actually, the easiest way to break down the flow, so when you look at this, right, when you look at the display, the middle is going to be your inverters. Your distributor is basically this point right here, right? So your solar comes in through the combiner box, comes up to the smart solar charge controller, comes from the smart solar charge controller. It then comes to the Lynx distributor. That point right there. At that point, it's either going to go to the battery bank, it's going to go up to the inverters, depending on what your load is going to be. Your inverters are going to feed AC power out, AC power in. And so a visual reference of what's going on here to the actual physical hardware over here. And so
This unit's called what?
This is the Serbo GX. This happens to be the Touch 70. They have As far as options go, you have a Servo GX, you have a Servo GXS, which is a system that cuts down on some of the option capabilities here. There's a good, better, best for the Servo GX. They also have what they refer to as the El Chrono, which is an all-in-one display slash servo capability, which for systems that you're going to have a built-in screen, they do have that capability as well. So
and these are pretty easy, simple, as far as hookups, because everything's pretty much plug and play.
Yes.
Layman's terms
Yep.
on connections.
So your inverters have a special connection point. Your solar charge controllers have a connection point. Your battery bank has a connection point. Your screen goes in a certain way. If this box, one of the other benefits to this box is that it also offers remote monitoring capability. If you have a way to provide internet to it, so if your off-grid site has a Starlink system to it, or from your she shed you can pick up the house Wi-Fi, this can also connect to that same Wi-Fi. And
so you can do it all remotely.
You can do it all remotely as well. And so there is a free network that Victron offers. It's a free server that your system can upload information to. And the system is going to have the ability to keep that server updated so that as long as this maintains internet connection and you have internet connection wherever you are, whether it's through a smartphone or a laptop or a handheld a tablet, whatever the case may be, you can log in and see exactly what's happening with your system.
When you log in, you're going to see basically the same thing that's on this.
You can see
remotely, and you can control different things,
right,
water
and
stuff.
Yep, and
on or off.
Right, and so you can set it up so that if you wanted to manually control, there's some relays in here that you can control. You can set some of these relays up to automatically control devices. Say your space needs ventilation. Maybe you have a shelf space that your printers get really hot in, and you want to be able to help control that temperature in that space. You could actually wire a temperature sensor to here, to that space, or and use that. Or you can also go through Bluetooth. There's some remote capabilities with Bluetooth sensors that you can add to the system that will allow you to basically monitor and control the system either automatically or manually to be able to regulate spaces using cooling fans and all this other stuff. Again, Victron system adds so much flexibility to whatever your build is going to be. When we build your system, basically what's going to happen is during the testing phase, I'm going to log in and make sure that VRM is working and making sure that the account is initialized for your system online. So there's no setup involved. There's nothing that you have to do special. What I'm going to do is once I get your system built, I'm going to send through Victron. I will then invite you to your system so that you can log in, see exactly what's going on in the system. I will give you the administrative rights to your system. At that point, you have an option. You can kick me out, or you may want to choose to leave me involved in the system. And if you have an issue with the system, you can call me up if something's not working right. You experience something that you're not quite sure what the issue may be. You can call me up and say, hey, on Thursday at around this time, I had this happen. And I will be able to go in and see and look at the history, see did it set a notification, did it indicate an alarm, did it identify something that was not working right. And I can go in and see a ton of information to help you diagnose if there is a potential issue.
Now, how secure is that information?
It's all,
leave it with you?
well, You don't have to worry about me. I don't have time to go in and snoop, right? I mean, when it comes down to it, everything's going to come up. I've got a screen that is full of systems.
Right.
And so if you want to remove me from being admin, you always have to have one admin, right? So if you remove me from being admin and 6, 8 months down the road, something goes wrong, somebody, you're adding components, whatever, and you have you can invite me back in.
And then you can walk
It's
through,
yep,
consult me through.
yep, and so it's all up to you. It's whatever level of assistance you are looking for. Some of our customers, they go into the system, they adjust things, whatever, and generally we recommend that any changes that you make on the touchscreen, you're not going to damage the system. The functionality of the system is still going to work just fine, right?
That's my next question. If I was to go in here, not knowing what I'm doing, and I start pushing a bunch of buttons, I'm not going to hurt the system because it's...
The system, regardless of what you tell it to do, the system is always going to protect itself. So you're not going to be able to damage the system, right? The other part of that is that you can also protect it so that people can go in and see it, but not actually make changes. He went in, made some adjustments, had some things set up that were not quite right, and so we ended up going back in, and I could do it remotely to be able to reestablish, okay, these are the parameters that you want your system to work best in. His system was not in danger of damaging anything or causing any harm. It just wasn't working the way that it should, the most efficient for his purpose. If you go to upsize your system, you want to change your battery bank size, you want to add additional solar components, whatever, to increase those capabilities. You can certainly reach back out to me. We can do a consult to be able to basically re-engineer on paper to make sure that your new additions are going to be able to meet the expectations, to meet your needs.
Add that console time with you,
right?
Rather than going in there,
right,
messing with it, and then having to call you anyway.
Right. And now we also offer a service that, because Victron, they are always trying to make sure that their equipment is operating top level, right? So, but what that also means is that there's updates that happen through the system, all of that. And so one of the services that we also offer is for an annual fee. We will go in and on an annual basis, we'll go in and we can go in and do all the updates, make sure that everything is updated correctly for you. It also gives you the capability, along with that service, it gives you the capability to be able to reach out and make sure that all those questions are answered, make sure that those updates are taken care of. If you have questions on the system not functioning correctly, all that stuff is kind of looped into that package. That is something, check our website, look at that capability as well.
My question is, once this is all built, can you ship it? Would be my first question.
Yes, we do have shipping options. We do deal with less than truckload shipping, so LTL. We'll have to calculate based on your specific build. We'll be able to palletize it and get things laid out and palletized and bundled. Some things to keep in mind. The inverters, you're looking 60, 70 pounds a piece. It's not super heavy, the board itself, but there is some weight to it. It's also big and bulky. So the inverters, what we'll do is once we build everything, we will go and basically take the inverters off the board. It's going to have the mounting positions, the mounting brackets are going to stay on it. So all they have to do is be put back on, making the few simple connections to get everything up and running again, have your electrician come in, all that stuff, right? Those will come packaged back into their original manufacturer packaging. A battery bank, you're looking at approximately 100 pounds per battery. My recommendation is that when you expect to have this thing delivered, what we're going to need to know is whether it's going into a residential area, if you're going to need a lift gate, or if you have the capability to offload it, or maybe you have a place close by. Moving companies will sometimes accept deliveries. That'll help keep your delivery costs down. What it means is that you'll have to go and pick it up from the business. They may have the capability to load it into a pickup truck for you, kind of thing. And there may be a through fee for that. So depending on your situation, that may or may not work better for you. So we will get everything palletized. We'll do an estimate. We'll get a quote to get it shipped specifically for you.
So what it sounds like is when it arrives, however it arrives, whether I do it, straight to my house, go somewhere, pick it up, whether have a lift gate. So then it comes off, the board goes up, the inverters are placed back in their original position. At this point, I need to get my electrician involved, correct?
Yes, I definitely recommend, again, I strongly recommend deal with a local electrician. Okay. That may be your Uncle Jimmy. It could be whoever. But dealing with a local electrician is going to make sure that you stay within regulations, local ordinance for the system to be installed into your place. Any kind of prep work that has to be done, all of that stuff should already be considered and known before this system is legitimately built anyway. So having that all done beforehand, when this system does come in, realistically at that point, you're talking maybe a day's worth of labor to hang the board. If all the other stuff has already been worked into your house or your build, then realistically, slap the board up on the wall, hang the inverters, do the simple wiring, plugging in a couple connections, making a few wiring connections. The system can go together pretty quick.
Okay. At the time that we do the quote and you tell me what the build is, we'll know the approximate weight, so that way I can configure what type of wall and or where it's going to go.
Yes.
It will hold this type of weight.
Yeah. Like I said, the overall plan on 200 plus pounds, basically anchoring this. You don't want it on a flimsy wall. Right. You want to make sure that it gets anchored to your structure correctly, okay. Right? Perfect. And so, and again, that's something that you can talk about. Your electrician should be able to identify where your mounting solution is going to go. You can lay it flat. They recommend that it stand up just because of the nature of the way that the cooling system works and all that stuff. The recommendation is that you want to have these mounted onto a wall so that naturally the heat is going to run upwards and dissipate. We've built systems like this and mounted them onto carts, basically rolling platforms that allow us to roll them around. Again, the key being you've got some weight here, right? And so you need to make sure that it stays stable. We do ship solar panels with a minimum quantity. The thing with solar panels is that there's a high potential for damage in shipment. Unfortunately, a lot of shipping companies hit or miss. And because of the fragility of the solar panels being glass, depending on small quantities of panels, are pretty difficult to ship and being able to have them packaged so that they're going to get there safe. When it comes to solar panel mounting, I generally do not recommend people to necessarily put their panels onto their roof. There's a little bit of engineering that goes into that. You've got to make sure, one, that your roof is capable of supporting it. So there's a little bit more requirement to go and roof mount panels. The other part is that is also susceptible to more regulation on the local level, making sure that the build is meeting all of the safety requirements. making sure that the system is accepted by the local fire department and all this other stuff. So there's more hoops that you have to jump through if you were to mount your panels onto the roof. For an off-grid cabin or somebody who's looking to do a small power backup system in their backyard, looking to do a DIY install for the solar panels, we are offering a racking system from a company called Integra Rack. And what these racks are, they are super DIY friendly. There's a couple of different solutions to be able to lay them out and anchor them to the ground, whether it's through ballasting, whether it's through spiking, using long ground spikes and epoxy that goes into the ground, or if you're going to lay it on a concrete form, you have that option as well. All of those are variable mounting options, easily done by a DIY, and it's a fairly simple, cheap solution. That's one that we offer on a regular basis. People can, when they size their system, it's one of the offers that we make, providing the racking for the panels. They do have tilting and fixed mounting solutions to help make sure that your system can fall into your budget and your needs. Having the ability to seasonally adjust your panels is going to help you get the most out of your panels all year round. We have all the components needed for a build. We offer you the best possible price for all of the equipment that we offer to sell. And we choose the equipment that we sell because it's going to be reliable, and that if there is an issue, the manufacturer is going to work with us to help you get the system taken care of. We've done all this research. We've spent a ton of time with the manufacturers that we do work with to make sure that you're going to get the satisfaction out of the product, and we're willing to put our name on it. If you're looking to build a system like this, if you're wanting to reach out, any questions, feel free to contact us at Panels Up Solar. You can go and check out our website, panelsupsolar.com, for some more information. Phone number 228-363-9121. You can reach out to us at sales, SALES, at panelsupsolar.com.
There's someone right there.